and good evening, Graham, and
New Year, Charles.
New Year, and welcome to all listeners to Two Big Egos in a Small Car. A New Year and a
Yeah,
full.
but we're in the phony war right now, Charles.
Well, we're in the phony war, Graham. Tell me about it.
Nothing ever happens in the first week of the new year unless you're in Venezuela, obviously.
And, or more to the point, no longer in Venezuela because now you're in the United States
Yeah.
with your
But it's
wife.
such a dead week. The first week in January is always, it's like, oh, nothing's happening.
Pantomime season comes to an end. That's what happens.
That's true.
It's
It's
just,
not, it's, it's not the beginning of the beginning. It's the end of the end.
I think it's the beginning of the beginning, but also the end of
Oh,
the end. I think it's both. So this is the voice
that
of
makes
Charles
perfect sense,
Hutchinson.
Charles.
I am co-host of this marvelous podcast institution. My co-host Graham Chalmers, introduce yourself.
Graham Chalmers, Harrogate, long career in journalism, in the arts and all sorts. Charm Magazine, independent magazine, Charm Gigs, independent gigs, vinyl sessions, co-host and interview specialist,
Mm,
organizer of arts events, former fringe director
mm,
for the Harrogate National Festival, all
mm.
in my spare time, apart from my actual job as a journalist.
Exactly. Well, that's a long list, Graham, and that's finished tonight's episode. So thank you ever so much.
Yeah,
Marvelous.
nice talking. Bye bye.
So, Graham, I haven't seen this film yet, but we'll be going to see Marty Supreme. And I gather that it's an apt title. This is a supreme performance by Timothée Chalamet. To the extent, Graham, that you're proposing the thought that he's perhaps the greatest actor of Hollywood's young generation.
Well, I'm not really a huge Timothée Chalamet fan. Well, I don't really like June, and the bits I saw of it, I didn't like him in June. But then I saw Complete Unknown, and he was
Mhm.
nothing like the usual Timothée Chalamet. And he was nothing like the Timothée Chalamet that's in June. And I thought, wow, he's done Bob Dylan so well. This
Mm.
guy can not only act, but he also puts an awful lot of work
He
into
did.
being a good actor. And
He,
then this film, Marty Supreme,
mm.
he's totally different again. He's nothing like he was in A Complete Unknown. So ipso facto, I've got to think that this guy is really talented.
Well,
And he looks
you
like
could add
he looks like
to
he's
that
about, yeah.
list Willy
Hmm.
Wonka. The contrast with that as well.
Exactly, yeah. And he's a really hard worker. He looks like he's 22, but he's
Mm.
actually 30 now.
Mm.
And Marty Supreme is the best film I've ever seen about table tennis.
I imagine, Graham, it's the first film you've ever seen about table tennis.
It is indeed, but put it this way, if Timothée Chalamet wasn't absolutely brilliant in Marty Supreme, I would have absolutely no interest in it whatsoever because table tennis is up there with dominoes on my list of ideas for a film that I don't want to be involved with.
I was remembering back to our younger days when a certain Desmond Douglas was a genuine star in this country, table tennis player.
I don't remember his name.
Desmond Douglas.
It sounds like a sky
It
actor of
does
the
sound
early
like,
late
but he
60s,
wasn't.
early
He
70s.
wasn't.
Mm,
He
mm.
was one of the, along with Barry Sheen. He had that kind of fame in Britain at the time.
Wow.
Mm.
Anyway, the film is about table tennis. There's a lot of table tennis in it. Although being a Hollywood film, it makes table tennis look much more exciting than it sometimes comes across. And on top of that, it's a bit of a MacGuffin. You could take the table tennis out and replace it as the central reason for the film and for the character that Timothée Chalamet plays. You could replace it with anything. You know, you could replace it with football
Tiddlywinks.
or fencing or, you know, even being a civil servant or being an actor. You could replace the central idea of the film with acting rather than table tennis. And it worked perfectly fine because it's actually a caper film and a farce about a con man and a hustler who will stop at nothing to drag himself up from the bottom to be a success. So that could work with anything. It just happens to be table tennis.
Ping pong.
It's such an energetic film because it lurches from one con and hustle to the other, which always goes wrong. Timothée Chalamet is a very charming, dynamic character in the film. He's set in 1950s in New York, and he's a shoe shop salesman in a Jewish shop. He's playing a Jewish character, and he dreams of being the world table tennis champion, and he hasn't got the money or the background to do that. So he pulls one stunt after another to try and get to the British Open and then to the World Championships and to be a star. So there's a non-stop series of like disasters he's got himself into, which he then has to talk himself into or run for his life or fight for his life. And it's like a rollicking, raucous, you know, farce of a film. So
Who's
it
directing this film, Graham?
well, it's Josh Sadfty, who before has made Uncut Gems in 2019, a crime
Mm.
caper starring
Hmm.
Adam Sandler. Apart from that,
Mm.
he's not particularly famous, but it's quite a Jewish film. And the director himself, Josh Safdie,
Yeah.
is of Syrian Jewish descent.
All right. Mm.
Timothée Chalamet has got dual citizenship between England and France because
Yeah.
his mother, who is a Broadway dancer, is of Russian Austrian Jewish descent. And
Mm.
in complete contrast, his dad, who is a senior national journalist, is French.
Mm.
So he's quite an international character, Timothée Chalamet,
Mm.
and he's quite worldly. And his worldliness comes out in this film because even though he's playing a very young person, and in some ways quite naive, he's also very worldly, and
Mm.
he can pull tricks and manipulate and seduce on the spot. It's a great performance.
Why was
It sort of reminds you of like old screwball comedy films in the 1930s,
mm.
or a bit more recently, Peter Bogdanovich's Paper Moon with Ryan O'Neill and Tatum O'Neill,
Yeah.
or also a little bit like the Coen brothers in their funny
Oh yeah.
moments,
Mm.
or even Wes Anderson when he's funny, although not as ornate. It's quite the film sticks to the story. There's no visual high points in the film. There's no flash direction. It's really about the character and the action and the
What
dialogue and the
about what
situations.
about Paul
Unlike
Newman
Wes
doing his
Anderson, who
hustles? What
delights in luxuriating on the scenes. What's that,
Paul
Charles?
Paul Newman doing the hustle?
Yeah, but it's not. I think it's what it does lack is any quiet moments. It's like bang,
Ah.
bang, 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 bang,
Oh,
bang
like a game of
till the
ping
very
pong.
end. Yeah,
Mm.
it's like an aggressive fast table tennis match from start to finish until
Yeah.
it suddenly slows down to a sudden halt with a jolt right at the end. It's not like films, but it's not like The Hustler with
No.
Paul Newman from the early 1960s. It has no quiet moments. It has no deep spiritual moments. It has no moments of reflection. The guy's too busy trying to get on to reflect at any point, which is one of the problems of the film, really,
Mm.
because when at the end he suddenly, very briefly, but suddenly realizes that there are some things more important than him, and there are some things more important than being a table tennis champion. It comes as such a shock in the context of the rest of the film. It's not very satisfying. It doesn't. They haven't planted the seed of the idea that the film's going to end up with him realizing he isn't the center of the universe, and so it doesn't totally work in that regard.
There's a basic rule in Hollywood at the moment that he gets nominated for an Oscar for everything he does. Is that going to
Hmm.
happen for this?
Well, he should have got one for A Complete Unknown, but it wasn't
Mm.
quite big enough a hit, and it was about Bob Dylan. But this one hasn't been a big hit. This has been a smaller hit than A Complete Unknown.
Yes.
Not even sure it's broken even yet. So the
Mm.
critics have loved it. It's in all the critics' top tens for last year in
Yes.
America, every single one of them. So he may get an Oscar because he didn't go on last time, and this is a
Mm.
great performance. I would say that he's becoming like, in a way, a bit like if Tom Hanks became a huge actor by representing something American, in the sense that most Tom Hanks films, he's an everyman character who links the goodness of the American people in theory with the
Mm.
horribleness of the world, the reality of the world in practice. And he's the middle between that. He links
Yeah.
the good and the real the whole time,
Yeah.
over and over again. Whereas Chalamet is becoming like an outsider character, just like Bob Dylan when he
Hmm.
played him in A Complete Unknown. His character in Marty Supreme
Mm.
is a hustler, he's a nonconformist, he's an
Mm.
individualist, he bucks the trends, he doesn't really care about money, he's a rebel. And he's becoming like, it suggests that being a rebel is the theme of the age for young people. And Timothée Chalamet represents that trend.
I think that's a good position to take. I don't think
I
there's
don't
enough.
think he means it.
I don't think there's enough rebellion going on.
Well, he definitely doesn't play the game in the characters he plays.
I
And
think
I'm
there
not
should be
saying
more
he
of that.
knows. I'm not.
Where's
I'm
that in the
not saying
music
he knows
industry?
this.
Where's that in the music
Yeah.
industry right now? Who's been rebellious apart from a more obvious thing like Bob Vylan? That form of rather obvious way of doing it, or Kneecap.
Nobody in the mainstream has been rebels
No,
in music now.
no.
Only on the fringes.
Mm. So it's good that if within filmmaking that is happening.
Well, yes, as I've said, we're in an era of very interesting films. Not
Mm.
necessarily always great films, but there's a lot of interesting things happening in movies.
Which you highlighted in your list of the best films of the year, many of which were unconventional films, outside of films, if you like. And so I shall be looking forward to seeing Marty Supreme. It's on the first one on the list to go and see this year. So thank you for your thoughts on that, Graham. Much appreciated. Any last thoughts on it?
Not at all, except you can be critical of Marty Supreme,
Mm.
but you got to remember that this is a film about table tennis. So
Yeah.
that's such a hard starting point for any movie that you've got to give it a lot of credit for how good it is.
Absolutely. So, Graham, we'll come to your second subject shortly, but I just want to take a moment to reflect on the contribution to music in North Yorkshire of a man I was deeply, deeply fond of, Nigel Burnham. Nigel ran the band room at Low Mill, which is near Farndale. If people are wondering where that is, so it's North York Moors, it's the Daffodil Valley, or as it was referred to, it's the middle of nowhere. It's the most
Mm.
beautiful drive of any drive you would do to any concert venue if you do it in the daytime rather than the nighttime, obviously. And for 27 years, Nigel put on concerts there, a venue that only had a capacity of 100. It was, I would call it unique. I think it's a cliched word as unique, but I think it
Mm.
had a unique appeal about it. Little details, just to give an example. The stage was always lit in red, an unusual color, but it was really
Mm.
comforting and warming. It was a stark white room, but he softened it with the red light. And the other thing is that at each concert, he would give out a token to remind you that you'd been to the concert with just a little thought for the day, an image, maybe not related directly to the performer, maybe a curio of some sort. And he had an uncanny instinct, I think, for spotting talent that maybe when you would go on to bigger levels of achievements, or maybe it's considered left field. And I know it's boring just to sort of read a list of acts, but I'm going to do that.
Yeah, but Charles, the essential thing is he got asked to play that small venue in the
Exactly.
middle of the country
Mm.
who were bigger than the venue, who could have
Yeah,
played bigger
I
venues
mean,
than
the
that.
best example of that would I guess be Martin Carthy, but he and Waltz and Carthy played there. Eliza played there with her father Martin. So that's Vashti Bunyan when she made her sort of late career return.
Mm.
She played there in an absolutely magical night. How Gelb played there. Willie Mason played there more than once. The Handsome family, who I adore, the Handsome
I saw
family.
them there with you, Charles.
Absolutely. And they called it the greatest small venue on earth. And I don't think you
Mm.
could ever have a finer tribute to that place. And
In
Steve
in
Gunn,
terms of like rural venues,
oh,
there
absolutely.
are town and city venues that are
Yeah.
small, that
But
have a
this,
lot of character that
absolutely. But
they punch well.
this is
But
out in
this
the
is
middle of
like
nowhere.
literally in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. Cerys Matthews, for example, went to play there. And
Mm.
a busload of,
Catatonia.
yeah, a busload of fans came. So, so
Mm.
pretty well, this busload of fans took over the venue. She brought them all out a meal after the show. I mean, it's that kind of touch that's unusual about that venue. Valerie June played there very early in her career, and my favourite there of all was Elin Jewell, who I wish she were better known than she is. A voice,
Mm.
a voice that's so sublime. So again, he would talent spot that way. He would bring someone like Elin Jewell there. He brought uh, no, what's her first name? Veers. Is it Laura? What's her name? Laura Veers? No, they haven't got
Laura Veers,
Laura
yeah.
Veers.
Yeah, Laura
Laura
Veers, yeah.
Veers there. Only this last year, 2025, he brought Steve Gunn there and Sam Moss. The year before, he brought Nadia Reid there. Nadia
Mm.
was she just had a young child, and so it was a special night for her coming and playing. It was, I think, her first performance back after having a young child, and the kind of thing that sometimes that had to be done there by Nigel was if suddenly a musician might not turn up with the desired instrument that they were planning to play or whatever, Nigel would somehow find a way to rent in maybe a piano, for example. So I'm not saying that it was a kind of place that went by the seat of its pants. Absolutely not, because it was really, really well organized, hugely welcoming. It also gave young talent a chance to blossom.
Yeah.
Francis Leftwich played there.
He didn't make a big deal of being professional.
No,
He had that ability to look like it was all casual, but it was all very well organized.
Absolutely. He also was a journalist, of course, and I think my recollection was that he was a journalist for The Guardian. So knowledgeable about music. I'd often see him coming to gigs in York as well, and a really lovely man. And it's such sad news. And so, thank you.
What age was he, Charles?
I don't know. That's one of those things you could never. It could be 10-year span trying to work out what age he would have been, but.
Yeah.
But I absolutely thank him for what he did for that venue. I was contacted by another of the team that ran the venue, and he let me know. So I do know that the funeral is taking place this Thursday. We're recording on Sunday, and it's taking place on Thursday. I'm hoping to put together a tribute piece for both the Charles Hutch Press and also all being well.
Your own website.
Well. Yeah. I'm hoping also to do a piece for your press, but it's going to take quite a lot of research to do it thoroughly, and I'm going to need to speak to a few people before that.
What's going to happen to the band room itself?
Well, that's the next question, because I mean, there have been those who ran it with Nigel, but obviously he had the contacts book. He came up with names that would perform there, and but I mean, it hopefully it can continue in the way that after the sad loss of Alistair Greaves last year, the Burning Duck Comedy Club in York does look like it is going to continue, partly in memory of Al. And so these things can happen. And I would like to think that could be the case. I mean,
it requires one person there who already worked there, who knows him, who knows the venue to want to do it. I would guess.
I mean, that happened with in York with Roland Walls running the Black Swan, running the York Folk Club for all those years that he did that, and the York Folk Festival, etc. And that has continued since the passing of Roland. So it can happen, and let's hope that it can. So I was keen to pay tribute to Nigel. So thank you for everything, Nigel, that you did for us.
It's an amazing list of acts. Amazing list of acts.
Absolutely. I have some of my happiest concert memories are going to the band room, and it was always a pleasure to write about it. And I do hope that maybe it can continue. Now, it's a kind of different nighttime experience. Mark Ronson, 1990s New York memoir, Night People. And in this, it reflects, and you're reflecting on the shallowness of the long distance DJ and the role thereof.
Well, it's got a hideous lurid pink cover.
I did think that's what drew me to get that book for you. I thought that cover.
Well, the publishers have worked. They've done the tricks. They've pulled it off. But technically it's published. It came out last year in hardback on Century. But of course, Century is actually part of Penguin Random House, which seems to
like everything else is.
Yeah. So I thank you for getting me that book for Christmas, Charles, and it's signed by Mark, but also by you, which I think your signature is better.
Well, that's really fun.
I've got nothing against Mark Ronson, but I'll read a passage if I may.
Yeah,
just a brief one.
Please do.
From Night People by Mark Ronson. 2 a.m. You're at a house party, packed with people rolling up from the club, all trying to squeeze a few more hours out of a Saturday night. It's not wild, but it could get there. In the kitchen, bodies huddle around the counter, mixing bottom shelf vodka with whatever's in reach. Capri Sun, kombucha, maybe both. Out on the terrace, the diehards are smoking cigarettes like it's still 1999, ashing into a cereal bowl that's been sacrificed for the occasion. In the living room, speakers pump out a mishmash of bedroom pop and the occasional boy band classic, somebody's go-to playlist. It's ironic, tolerable, and ultimately a bit lifeless. You can feel it, though. The party's on the verge. It just needs someone brave enough to tip it over. You pull out your phone and cue up your surefire banger, sliding over to the speaker You hijack the aux cord like it's nothing, and a sharp electronic buzz rips through the room. Eyes snap towards you. The judgment is heavy. But then your fingertip makes contact, and the opening kick drums of Fat Man Scoop's Be Faithful tear through the room like blows from Thor's hammer. The shift is seismic. Cups slam to countertops. The sofa gets shoved back. Bodies flood the floor with raised hands. A collective finally overtakes the place. You stand by the speaker, cradling your phone like a trophy. The room is alive, buzzing, and somehow united. Your finger hovers over the screen to cue up the next heater. The crowd now trusts you. You're about to show them why. I mean, I don't mind Mark Ronson as a person. His track record of what
Yeah,
he's done in music as a DJ and producer with, you know, Amy Winehouse and
and that's the
Paul
best
McCartney
example.
and,
Absolutely.
and his own hit singles,
Mm.
like Uptown Funk.
Yeah.
The guy's amazing. But it did, the bits of the book I've read, it did make me think there's something strange about DJ culture and that sort of party culture
Mm.
that isn't as interesting as perhaps some other forms of music that have books written about them.
So, I mean, I would have always been rather more drawn to seeing a musician than I would to watching a DJ throwing a few shapes and spinning a few decks. I'm not saying it's a skill that is overrated, but I'm saying it's a skill that's overrated.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of great mixes by DJs and a lot of great remixes by DJs and a lot of great creations by DJs. I mean, Fatboy Slim, you can't really not Fatboy Slim,
Well, of
but there is something shallow about it. The book
course.
itself, although you get a little tiny bit about his upbringing and his childhood, very short,
Mm.
very brief. He was the son of Mick Jones, not Mick Jones of the Clash, but Mick Jones
No,
of Foreigner. So you can sort of
not
tell
Mick
that
Jones of Leeds
to Matt,
United.
yeah, you can tell Matt Ronson was born into a world where performing in music at
Yes.
a high level and showbiz is just normal. It's completely normal. And you learn a lot about the life of a DJ, but you learn a lot about the life of a DJ mainly in terms of which bangers work and how exciting it is to play the right banger at the right time and all the gear you use on your mixing desk
Mm.
and the practicalities. There's a tiny little bit of gossip, character gossip that goes on about Sean Lennon and Yoko Ono and all
Mm.
the DJs. And you can tell that Mark loves music, although mainly DJ music. He absolutely loves Mos Def and Q-Tip. But it's like a fanboy book combined with a slightly practical guide to being a DJ in terms of the technical aspects.
You know what the
It's
next
a bit
DJ is
like
going to
if
be, Graham? The next
what's that?
DJ will be an AI DJ. You wait. You wait.
Well, everything's going to be AI. I mean, this podcast is going to be going AI at some point, Charles. You won't need us to do it.
Well, it'll go bye bye if that's the case.
Oh no, it'll probably improve.
What? What?
Anyway, if you think about rock biographies and rock
Mm.
music memoirs, or even jazz ones,
Mm.
if the rock music biography was just about how much the musician liked music and about him arriving at the venue on the tour bus and the gear being loaded in, and which guitars he played and how he sound checked,
Mm.
it'd be it wouldn't be a great book.
Are
And
you
there's
saying
something
I bought
about
you a dud?
no, no, I'm not saying you bought my dad. I'm just saying that the subject matter
Mm.
is intrinsically of less interesting
Absolutely.
than musicians who play their instruments. Not because Mark Ronson's stupid, he certainly isn't,
No.
because he's describing something which is not as interesting as, say, someone who can play saxophone, who tours the world
Mm.
and has lots of fans.
Mm.
And the fans aren't there to dance at a sax player's gig. They're there to be impressed by how good his sax is and to feel the emotions and judge the sax player by every single little movement of his right elbow.
Mm.
But a DJ has to pick the right tracks and mix the right tracks
Yeah.
to make the crowd dance and hold their hands in the air. It's just it's a different form of art. It's a different art form.
It's a form of
Therefore,
cheerleading.
you
Graham,
get
it's a form of cheerleading.
that's a good point. Yeah. I'm sure Mark Ronson wouldn't agree. Actually, no, he might do. He might agree. I think he might think that's actually good. He might think that's actually an achievement itself that you can be a successful
Well,
cheerleader.
it can shift the mood of a room, but it struck me that the main shift of the mood of the room was called ecstasy.
Well, yeah, shifting the mood of the room is a skill, and being able to spot interesting tracks and be able to mix them successfully
Mm.
and program successfully is also a talent. But it's not your music. You haven't actually played those instruments. You haven't written the tune. You haven't come up with the idea for the music. You haven't written the lyrics, if there are lyrics. So, in that sense, you're at one stage removed from the whole process. The DJ isn't really the creator, the DJ is the editor.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, where does the wedding DJ stand?
I don't think you should mention. Mind you, Matt Ronson has DJed at weddings of
Does
famous
it
people.
really? Mm.
I've got a feeling that when Paul McCartney got married for the third time,
Mm.
a while back now, I've got a feeling Matt Ronson was a DJ at Paul McCartney's wedding.
Mm. Well, if you find any more revelations from Mark Ronson's book that made a splendid Christmas present to you, I look forward to hearing about that. And
Well, I'm sure there will be bits that I will
yeah,
be able to
well,
highlight as
I
being
mean,
worth
I'm
the
being a
price
bit
of
flippant. I'm
entry.
being a bit flippant, but then that's also the job of a DJ to, flips over the CD, but flips over the disc, I should say. So, Graham, just a brief piece of housekeeping, if I may. At the end of 2025, Charlotte Dawson, who'd been running a rather good event called York River Art Market, where each Saturday and Sunday in August, for 3 weekends of that, there would be set up stalls by the riverside along Dame Judy Dench Walk. And she'd done this for 10 years at had Charlotte.
Mm.
And
Yeah, yeah.
Charlotte took the decision. She thought she'd take a year out because she's got quotes, a more demanding new job. And so been running stories saying, not going to be happening next year. Now, a change of decision, just so that people know what's going to be happening instead. Charlotte's decided to step down from it full time. And Caroline Turner is going to take over this event. Caroline Turner is from Clay Space, York, and she will now run York River Art Market. And because
Remind me what's so good about this event anyway. Why is the
well,
market
you've
so
got
good?
each. So, if you think about it, you've got 30 different artists potentially each. So, if it's done for 3 weekends, and there's some artists that will do more than one day at the event, but you will see a range of artists there and makers. And the great thing is you can have conversations with them. It's direct sales, as it were, and you can even commission a work from them if you like. And it's a great way to meet artists.
But
There they are.
does it have that very British thing of awkwardness? Because I've seen these things before where the public are a bit awkward at talking to the artist, and the
Yes.
artist's slightly nervous about talking to the public. Has it got that feeling of awkwardness that British
So
things can have?
I think that's quite an astute assessment on your part. I don't have that awkwardness because I go so often that I get to know lots of the
Mm.
artists and become a regular buyer of some of their pieces. But you're right. I think there's always that slight awkwardness because you almost don't want to be caught looking at something, and they
Mm.
don't actually want to be caught looking at you, thinking, "Are you or are you not interested in buying?" That is the British nature of it. I don't know
Yeah,
what
yeah.
it's. I don't know what
So
it's like on the.
that's why we're very poor at haggling in markets. We don't
Mm,
haggle very well.
hopeless at haggling at markets. Celestine's
Mm.
much better at that than I am. But I've enjoyed Charlotte running this event in a very positive way, bringing lots of talent into York. Some of it is from York itself. Some people come from wider to take part, usually within Yorkshire. And so I'm wishing all the best to excuse me, Caroline Turner taking over. I'm hoping to be interviewing Caroline to find out exactly what whether she might change it at all or what her plans are. So
Mm.
I'll update everyone on that. But and again, I'll be doing a piece on the Charles Hutch Press website about that.
Excellent.
So Graham, let's come to the return of vinyl sessions in our very final part of tonight. The return of vinyl sessions in Harrogate, a successful event that you're strongly involved in. When is the first one of 2025?
Well, it's been going for 6 years now and off,
Mm.
and it was the idea of Colin Payne, who's a former DJ, old school DJ, not quite at Mark Ronson level, but got paid to do it.
Yeah.
Who's also a hi-fi expert. He's an absolute. He's got a gold mine of vintage hi-fis at his
Mm.
home
Mm.
in Nidderdale. And it was his idea, and he brings along the vintage hi-fi equipment, and we have a classic rock or pop or soul
Mm.
album. And
Mm.
then I talk for 15, 20 minutes to explain the background to the
Mm.
album and the act and give it all my pretentious thoughts. And then we've got Mike who does a video, appropriate video, which is
Yeah.
screened behind the real life vintage hi-fi. So
Yeah.
it's a sort of audio visual talking, listening, and people actually sit there and listen. The amazing thing is that people sit there and listen to the whole album without chatting, which is without being told to be quiet, which is quite extraordinary. And the
Absolutely.
last 6 out of 7 events we had in 2025 were
Mm.
sold out
Yeah.
just for that.
That's proper
So,
momentum, Graham. That's good.
and every single penny, there's no cost. Every penny goes to the Harrogate Hospital charity.
Yeah.
So it's all for a good cause. And we love doing it, but Colin's having a break. So I think the first one's coming back in March,
Yeah.
and it's held at Starling Independent Cafe Bar
I guess. Yes.
in Harrogate on a
Nice
monthly
bar. Yeah.
basis.
Mm.
And I think we're going to have a special event with Rob Cowan, the author of the fantastic Radio 4 Book of the Week, The North
Yes.
Road. And
Yes.
he's a mad music fan and ex-musician himself. So his epic, monumentally brilliant book, The North Road,
Mm.
mentions music here and there along his journey
Yes.
up the A1.
Yes. Mm.
So we're going to do a special night where we program music which features in the book.
Ah, good. That would be a
I
good
don't know the
start.
exact date of that yet, but that's what's going to
Mm.
happen this year as a
Excellent.
starting
Well,
point to vinyl sessions.
I must get to one of these one day, Graham. I must venture across. And it's
Well, we
been
had
remiss of me.
We've had Ken Scott on two or
Yes.
three times, and
Yeah.
we had him talking about David Bowie's Ziggy Stardust Hunky Dory
Mm.
album
Mm.
a good 5 years ago, and he
Mm.
was just on BBC6 Music recently. Ken Scott talking about the same thing
Yeah.
about 6 years after we did it. So
Yeah, well, you set the trend, Graham. Yeah. Next week we
always
might
ahead of the
even,
trend. Always ahead of the trend.
yeah,
Always
we
ahead, Charles.
might discuss the new David Bowie documentary next week. Bowie One Final Act. Might bring that up as a,
That'd be great. Can I recommend a horror movie for a go that came out last year?
yes. This is our
It's
last
by
minute.
Ryan.
Go for it.
It's by Ryan Coogler, the director of Black Panther. It's
Mm.
called Sinners.
Mm.
It's a genre-defying, shape-shifting movie about the birth of the blues in Jim Crow era in the south of
Oh.
Southern States of America in the 1930s, and it
Mm.
warps into a vampire movie. But there's one great scene where they're playing the blues in their juke joint shack, and they tie it into the future of all black music in America. So suddenly the guy playing blues is joined by a DJ and
Yeah.
a rapper and a sort of funkadelic 1970s guitar player. And
Mm.
it's just a wonderful moment where it brings in the whole history of black music in America without actually saying those words. So there's some extraordinary scenes, and it's got a great mainly black cast.
Mm.
And Jack O'Connell, the Irish actor, turns up
Oh,
as one of
right.
the redneck white men baddies, brackets vampire. So I'd
Excellent.
recommend Sinners. Is
Sinners.
a really thought-provoking,
Is that
brilliantly produced.
in cinemas right now, or is it on
It
streaming
was in
service?
cinemas last year. It was a big hit in America, not
Mm.
so much in Britain. It's on DVD right now.
Oh, okay.
Sinners by Ryan Coogler.
Excellent. Well, Graham, thank you for that. A wide range we've been through tonight. As I say, welcome to the new year to our listeners, and God bless and good night, Graham. And look forward to catching up in a week's time.
You've been listening to the podcast Two Big Egos in a Small Car. Your hosts were Graham Chalmers and Charles Hutchinson. This was a Baltic sub production.